I'll just share an experience that happened with me. So when I was in another company, we had a homegrown app. And we realized even that app was given for free, I mean almost for free, we were just doing a trial period, it was not reliable. Like it kept crashing after a certain amount of time and people eventually, they just lost their trust in it. Just imagine that being applied to a cloud provider. Like you're going to a client, you're trying to sell your product or a service, and it keeps crashing. There's no reliability associated with it, or there is no kind of guarantee that you can give. You'll eventually lose customers. They will either move away from you or move away from the cloud altogether. That is where we come across this concept of SRE. Is there anyone here who knows the full form of SRE? Anyone? Actually, I want you to shout it in tandem. That's it, site reliability engineering. So I'll call Romin once again to the stage to talk about site reliability engineering and just share a little bit of his experience. And this is going to be an interactive session, as in you will be given a chance to ask your questions as well. So over to you, Romin.
Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to break this room into like two halves. I'm not going to, it's already broken. People are sitting like in their halves. So I'll ask some questions here and there also at times to see how we can all come to a common conclusion about what all these terms really mean. So we're going to be doing two things actually. One is to take a quick look at what site reliability engineering means, but without getting bogged down into too many details. We'll sort of just get about enough, not to be dangerous, but so that we understand what it's all about and how you can really apply that mindset. It need not be software always. You could potentially even apply it to many other daily tasks that you're doing. But then I'll sort of switch to what's called the Google Cloud Operations Suite. And you must have heard about monitoring and logging and tracing and some of those things. But I'll do it in a recipe kind of a form, right? Which is, I don't want you to go back saying that, hey, look, cloud monitoring supports this laundry list of features. Cloud logging allows you to do all these things. I'm going to actually break it down into what if you had a site, what if you had an application that was hosted on Google Cloud, any of the services, it doesn't matter whether it's Cloud Run or App Engine or GKE or whatever it is, there will be a few common things that you'll end up doing. How do I make sure my site is running or not? How do I make sure that it's running fine or not, as per some numbers that I want? How do I get notified if something is not okay with it, right? So we'll actually look at these practical recipes and see how to implement it. So let's get started first with site reliability engineering. How many of you know we've published some books on site reliability engineering and they are all available? Keep your hands up. I'm not going to ask questions. Okay. Now, all of you who've got a hold of those books, who put their hands up, that is, keep them up if you've read them. Okay, we still have a few who've read, so that's good. Okay. All right. They're quite thick, but they've got some, jokes aside, if there is some stuff that you should read in terms of real world problems that it takes to scale stuff at Google, these are actual experiences written from there. And take your time. You can read each chapters also in their own, separately and do that. But let's get going. How many of you have seen this slide again and again? That at Google we launch these many, this is a dated slide, so 4 billion might have even become, much more than that. Some interaction, folks. How many of you have seen this? Every time you will have seen a container-based presentation, that we launch so many containers per week. And we've got 1 billion users and 3,000 engineers. Now, anyone from you tells me what is something that strikes you in this slide. I'm not worried about 4 billion or it becoming 8 billion. Let's say it becomes 40 billion. Anything strikes you right now, just this data, when you pay attention. One is to say how great GKE is as a service, but we are not talking about that. Anyone, quickly. Quickly, folks, I've got only 40 minutes. And just shout it out, the answer. Actually, I made a mistake to say everyone to shout out. Now I can't decipher what's happening. Okay, one of you. Too many?
Too many end users and too few engineers.
Everyone agrees with this? Okay. So there must be something that we are doing to make this possible. Everyone agrees? That okay, even if the scale is keeping on increasing, right? We're able to support this with as minimal number of users as possible. Remember, it's not about the number of containers. So that brings me to this particular slide, or this graph or chart, whatever you want to call it, right? And that clearly shows the green line, arrow is about the fact that even if the services keep on scaling, whether it's number of users and more, you still find that you can't just say that, okay, I'll keep adding that many number of people, right? The golden thing that, okay, if there are additional tasks to be done, let's put some more engineers on it, right? You can't continue to do that because you'll simply not be able to manage it. You can't just say that because my services are growing, I'll keep growing this too. So you want some kind of a sublinear kind of a growth. And that's precisely what the previous slide says. I intentionally got that first instead of showing you this because this is what SRE is about. But to do this, look at these 3-4 points here. You don't have to go through each one of these points, but you will know for a fact that if you are to support that many number of users with a minimal staff, you will need to be extremely high on automation. You'll need to have the tools, frameworks, processes in place that help you even achieve that. So a lot of automation went into it. Tooling, shared responsibility, community of practice, the whole thing is the ability to take risks. The ability that when something goes wrong, do we blame people or do we blame processes? Today, typically what do? We blame people. But really speaking, you'll see one of the tenets of SRE is it's a blameless post-mortem of things that happen. Focus on what happened, focus on how you can mitigate that in the future, focus on building out some more reliability aspects versus targeting people. But anyway, given all of this, right? This is a definition you'll see of site reliability engineering. I don't want to bore you folks with the whole paragraph and stuff like that, right? The key thing, of course, there's measurement to be done, or of course, there's automation to be done, there's communication to be done, but at the end of it, you see that particular thing that's highlighted out there. Everything needs to be done with a user lens in mind. If you are building software today, if you are putting out a service, if there is an interesting app that you built which you want others to use, right? That others or the users, that's what it's all about. If you can't get them happy about using your software, it's going to defeat the purpose. We'll come again and again to this particular point, but the end thing is that SRE is all about users, and they have to be satisfied users. What that satisfaction, happiness, etc. means, there's an objective way to even evaluate that. It's not like, yeah, I believe my users are happy with this particular service that I have. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way, right? So, I'm going to break this into this side, right? So I'm going to ask this question right now. 2 words here that you see. Features and reliability. Everyone at least understands these words. Should we build more features in the product, or should we focus on making the software reliable, stable, whatever you want to call it? So, this side, can you all agree, should we build more features or should we focus on reliability? And please make it quick because Reliability. This side. You all don't have an option. But still, if you all still want to go strongly with reliability, say that. Remember, just a small hint, just because this talk is about reliability doesn't mean the right answer is reliability. Features or reliability? Or both? Interesting. They're saying both. This side, sure? Or you want to change your thoughts now? No, must be both. You see some things here, it's giving you some hints. These are not some obscure icons, I didn't know what to find and I put them. No, it's like sometimes you see a balance, sometimes you see someone saying something else only, right? So this side what? Both. This side? Both. Okay. So, again, none of you were wrong, right? Keep that in mind. But the point is that reliability itself is a feature of your application. And this brings me to principle number 1 of SRE, which is that the most important feature of a system is its reliability. Why? Don't accept these statements, right? Question them. Why? Anyone, quickly. People will not use it? Great.
And users won't trust you.
Sorry, I can't.
Users won't trust you.
There you are, sorry. Tell me.
Users won't trust you. If they don't trust you that your software is reliable,
okay,
they won't use it at the time they need.
Fair enough point. So can we all agree that you might build the best features ever in your system, right? Or you might build the most interesting application that's ever been made. But if it's not reliable, there's no use. Because people are not going to be able to use it. You might still park this thought in your mind that maybe I'm playing a game here. I'm just saying if it's not reliable, people will not use. But what does that mean really, right? Is there a way you can empirically calculate even that this word reliability, is there a way we can measure it? What that may be, we'll come to that in a while, right? But hopefully you agree with me that if you just can't get it in front of the users in a consistent manner, it's not going to be of any use. So this is a key feature itself. So again, no one was wrong in the previous one. It's just about, it just twisted the other way around. How would you measure it? I've got some points here. This side, again, you agree these could be good ways we could measure. Does this group agree that memory, CPU, right? After all, you're hosting these things on the cloud, right? Does these things affect and give us a way to measure reliability or not? No? Then what's the way? Okay. So hopefully everyone agrees. And let's put it in a practical way, right? When you are searching, let's say, or using Google search, do you care if we are running out of memory? Or there are some issues with our backend systems? Or maybe, the CPU utilization is poor? You don't care. What do you care for? You care for it to do what you're supposed to go there for. Give me the search results in a way that are useful, accurate, which work all the time, right? So this is definitely not a way to measure reliability. Which brings me to these points. Everyone has heard about 4 golden signals in some way, right? Don't worry about these words, but really speaking, latency, availability, let's look at these 2, right? And you find that these are things that directly affect the user. Latency, hopefully everyone is clear on. It's about just being responsive enough in a certain amount of time. And similarly, availability. It should be there most of the times. Are you okay at times if some sites don't work once or twice? Are you okay? Means everyone is saying consistently no. How many times you found you were in a browser, the site didn't work and you said, okay, let me just refresh it and it worked. And you were fine. Why are you telling me no now? I'm just asking. Yes, no? Just let... No, at all, completely. It's not, I'm not asking you a question, but it's okay to not have a very high reliability or 100% kind of a reliability. Does everyone in this group agree we should be having 100% reliability or target as 100% reliability for our software? You are saying you are not happy if any site is down even for a moment, and then you're answering my question saying, no, it's okay, we don't need 100% for our software. Okay. So that brings me to number 2, at least for a point, for a moment, that our monitoring does not decide our reliability, it's really the users. They need to be happy. So is it a responsive site, is it an available site or not, and so on, right? So, principle number 3, which is that same 100% that we are talking about, right? Have you heard of these 3 nines, 4 nines, 5 nines? That the reliability of the system is like, the cloud providers actually give it. That, it's 3 nines, 4 nines or 5 nines. Anyone knows what this 5 9 means? In other words, how do you look at this number? How much amount of unreliability is okay, right? How many times that the cloud provider says so-and-so service, which has a 5 nines or a 4 nines or a 3 nines, I might be not working for that period of time. Anyone knows 90, suppose, say 4 nines, someone could look up quickly. How much amount of downtime per year is allowed? Anyone? That's okay, but like downtime per year or month, it will probably be in minutes, right? So basically you are almost committing here that this software, I'm promising you that it will be down for not more than, say, 3 minutes a month. You can actually check up these tables. It's there, as many nines and what it means. Ask yourself this question. If you're going to target any of these things, do you have the systems in place that will let you detect there is something going wrong, that will let you identify the problem, mitigate it, roll back, and everything within a couple of minutes, right? So usually you find that you just have to be a little bit more pragmatic about what numbers or reliability numbers that you set for your system, right? So again, and each one of these requires an additional amount of engineering effort and time and resources to actually get this done. So it's extremely difficult to achieve. Anyway, so the point is, if it was always 100%, or in other words, what we are saying is it's okay to fail a bit, what is the benefit it gives? If I say that my software is only going to be available 99% of the time, and 1% it's okay to fail, what does it give you? Any thoughts? Quick. Yeah. If a software is okay to fail for 1%, then?
It gives you a chance to exploit it.
Gives you a chance to?
Exploit it.
Exploit it. Well, no, I didn't mean it from that angle.
Okay.
It's more around that if you are a team and you are told as an engineering team that your reliability number is only 99%, not 100, what does it allow the teams to do?
It's basically talking about the service level agreement which
Okay.
cloud is promising to you.
That's fine, but what does it allow you to
A
do?
turnaround time is less.
Turnaround time is less. Does it allow you to plan for any downtime? Maybe.
You can recover fast.
You could recover fast, depends. That depends on a lot of other processes and all. But it also gives you chance to take more risks at times, right? So there are various advantages to it. And again, it's not about 100% always being the right reliability target for anything as such. So I want to quickly just cover this SLI, SLO, SLA kind of terms that come up in a SRE world. SLIs, service level indicators, these are metrics that you measure. So for example, we talked about latency or availability or correctness or freshness or quality, right? So the actual values that you will measure. Objectives are the key things to an SRE framework, and this is all about what is the target you want for that. So if you say that my availability is the SLI, but the SLO might be it should be 95% of the time available or 99%. If it's latency, you might end up saying it should be serving a request within, say, maybe 100 milliseconds, 95% of the times and things like that. And SLA is something you give. Again, it's a little bit relaxed number of the SLO, but it is a contract that you sign with your customers for which if you miss, there might be some consequences in terms of either credits you'll have to give or some kind of discounts or whatever that means. There will be financial consequences, but it's mostly on the legal side of things. So two things matter here, right? It's again this particular diagram. SLI along the x-axis is what you're measuring. Let's take latency as an example. So what could be the latency which, if it is less than that, it will make the users happy. And if it is more, it's going to end up in somewhat unhappy users. And that boundary, that value, that threshold is the target that you go for when it comes for SLOs. We'll see an example here, which is, let's say it's a product catalog service, right? And an example SLI, right, could be around latency. This makes sense now? All the requests, but really speaking, tell me all the requests which are within a certain amount of time. Let's assume 100 milliseconds is something that we believe. If you're able to return a result in that much time, the users are going to be okay with it. This is just a number I've chosen. It could be different for your system. So this is basically SLIs are ratios of valid events, good events. So the good events over valid events into the percentage, that gives you the number. But the SLO of the same thing could be worded like this. So you've taken the SLI and said the target. I would like 95% of my requests within a particular duration of time to be within 100 milliseconds. So this is the objective that you're going after. This is the thing that you'll continuously measure and which you will be rated against. Is it somewhat clear? Yes, no, any questions? Okay. All right. So this brings me again to a different kind of an equation here, which is that 100% really is the wrong reliability target for anything. You'd never go for 100% because you still need that little bit of leeway to do other things. So all you're saying is you are okay with a certain percentage of your services to be unreliable or a certain acceptable rate of errors which you see. And that's the budget. So as an example, if you're going for a target of 99.9%, the amount of error budget that you have is 100 minus that or 1 minus whatever that ratio. So it comes to, in this case, a very simple 0.1%. So for 1 billion queries per month, it's almost like 1 million queries can fail. That's the kind of a gap you've got in which you can play around with. And trust me, if you're ever going to say that my software has to be 100% reliable, it means you will not be allowed to make any change. You will never release anything in production again after that, and it will just remain like that. Because we know changes happen. New features have to be delivered. There will be errors. There will be some configuration issues, whatever that might be. So you need that little bit of gap, which brings me to this point. If the budget is available, you know, I was asking when you do 100%, sorry, when it is not 100%, what are the things it lets you do? So you can plan for new features, plan downtime, you can do a bit more risky experiments. But if you are depleting your budgets, sorry, you'll have to focus on reliability, you'll have to focus on working on those aspects versus trying to get some of the features out. So having said this sort of a thing, right, this is all the framework is about at the end of the day. We talked about those 3 key principles, but really at the end of the day, 100% is the wrong reliability target for anything. And similarly, then what should be the reliability target? That's defined by your service level objective. So we saw latency and we said it should be within 95%, 99%, whatever be the target. And of course, continuously you will monitor so that are you within that range or are you sort of going over your budget or not? There could be some consequences there. Fine. Now we'll just sort of go into another section of our presentation, which is again a statement. Any one of you has heard about DORA report, that little thing which you see? It's not Dora the Explorer, but but anyway, if you've not heard about the DORA report, please go there. It's the longest running software research program that studies what makes certain organizations extremely efficient at releasing software faster and in a more reliable fashion. And it talks about various things that could be measured. See, these things, they may look like very abstract, that how do we identify that this is a high-performing software team? What are the metrics that could be potentially measured, right? This is a research program that gives you. But really speaking, the only thing I wanted to talk about, because I lead into my next section, is that the folks that had successfully met their reliability targets, they had a lot of observability. So those tools, right? So how do I know that's, monitoring tools, dashboards, alerts, logging, all of that stuff, right? So it's a combination of this. Unless you have those, there's no way you'll be able to measure the reliability in a much more effective manner. For example, if I tell you today that do you have a process where within like 2 or 3 minutes of you detecting there is a problem, you have the potential to roll back changes? It's a big question. You'll have to look at your tools that you have from an observability perspective, whether you can even do that in the first place. But hopefully I'll show you a few things we have in Google Cloud that gives you a glimpse of how we could do that. A very confusing slide, trust me on that. But the way you want to read it is in operations. We've got, look at it from the left, though I know the moment I do left, you'll start looking at from here, that there must be some trick to it. But no, there are 3 monitors really, right? Or pillars, sorry, in cloud operations. So one is monitoring, the dashboards and like charts and metrics and can I set alerts, etc. So these are things that are deduced, right, to some extent from the logging. So logging is all your different services, putting in what's happening in the system. Some are system-generated logs from us, some are your own application logs, some are from GCP services. So you see all of these things coming into our system. There's a whole suite of stuff here. I'll show you a few of those, right? So I'll explain to you from a recipe perspective so it becomes a little easier. But we've got tools that let you monitor what's happening, maybe look at logs, maybe look at tracing to understand the latency between services and more, right? And of course, integration even later on if you want with other third-party tools. It's a very simplified diagram. And another way to look at it, just to confuse everyone, is the same kind of a diagram, but just shows you a few of the building blocks that are there. So it starts with Google Cloud having its own monitoring or metrics for a variety of services. Again, it could be from any of our services. It could be your own stuff that's running on GKE or even otherwise. It's going directly into this whole giant database, if you may say so. The storage thing is a time series database. And of this, you can do many things. You can build dashboards. You can build alerting. You can do uptime checks. Hey, is my site up or not? You can notify into third-party applications and more. So it's just a flow, right? For example, you may say, if there's a CPU utilization that's way beyond what it should be, it'll come in from one of those services. It'll come in over here. You might have set some dashboards where you can see it, or you might have set some alerts on those same metrics, which will notify you that something is happening. So it pretty much flows in the same fashion. Before I jump into the demo, I've got about some time still. I wanted to just flip it, as I said in the beginning, right? And look at these questions. Because I don't want to tell you monitoring, here are the features, logging, here are the features. Here are simple questions that I hope you understand and which may apply to a variety of, any kind of application you're trying to host, right? That is it like maybe performing well or not? Is my website even responding correctly? So that I don't have to keep checking in the middle of the night, oh, has anything come? Or I don't want, basically the point is like this, right? You want these systems to alert you that something has happened versus you being told by your customers and users that the site is not working, and then you start to dig. So many of these questions, right? How do I figure out what's going on with my services? Are there any dashboards already available? Are there any ways by which I can look at various alerts, metrics, whatever else is happening in the system? So let's now go there. So about 11 minutes to show you most of cloud monitoring. Okay. Am I still there on? Let me just check if my, okay, does it work? Yeah, fine. Font-wise, everything fine? Less, more, or is good? You're making me lose 30 seconds in which I could have shown a feature. Yes, no? No. Okay, all right. So, I am within Google Cloud Console, right? And you can notice all the shortcuts and bookmarks I keep, which I should have hidden, but that's okay. Anyway, so here's the console, and of course, you can go to various products. Now, specifically, this is cloud monitoring. I've just pinned it over here, but you'll find it in the operations suite. So what I've done is, I have just hosted a very simple inventory kind of a service on Cloud Run, right? And those of you who are using App Engine who said it earlier, maybe take a look at Cloud Run. It's probably much better. Now, this service is hosted in Cloud Run over here. And I'll just show that to you quickly. So it's an inventory API that I've got. It's hosted in Cloud Run. And it doesn't do too much. It's just for the purpose of demonstration over here. Okay? And don't worry about this, but basically, you see, it's something like this, right? I've got an API, a very simple one, that goes and just gets me 3 products in the system and what is their current inventory. Straightforward, nothing magic happening over here. I could even go into any of these and say, show me that specific product that's there, or if I give a wrong product, it's going to give me back this -1 or whatever. That's the way I've designed the straightforward JSON API. Nothing much happening there. It's in Cloud Run. Now, I go back to my Google Cloud project, right? And the first thing that people ask is, I want to understand what's happening in the system. Whether it's Cloud Run, whether it's compute, whether it's GKE, it could be anything. It could be any of those tens of services that we've got. The first question that everyone has, typically customers who are implementing this, is, do I have to build all these dashboards that show me latency and number of requests? Or if it is specific to a service for GKE, for example, or even storage, it might tell you number of read writes per second, some throughputs, and things like that. The question is, do we have something that lets me get started under, and I'm not making a claim, under a minute, and gives me a view of what's happening for various services, right? So please watch me. So I'm going to go to dashboards, okay, over here. And what does it say? Probably some dashboards are there, but you see that thing called sample library there? Everyone? Right? So go to sample library and see what happens. It has a whole list of various Google Cloud services and various dashboards that are pre-built for you. Okay? So for example, in my case, I told you I deployed something in Cloud Run. So the question to be asked is, okay, since I put it in Cloud Run, what are the dashboards, charts, etc. that you have for Cloud Run that I can just click, and have it ready, right? So what I do is, maybe I do a scroll or a search, whichever way, and I see something on Cloud Run. And you'll see it for even different services, even third-party applications for that matter. And you see Cloud Run monitoring, you see something called preview, and if I click that, you'll see there are already dashboards created, this charts created for you. All I do is say, import a sample dashboard. What this does is literally it's created a dashboard for me over here with this name, which if I go to, I'll come to that, if I dashboard, you see that one, it got added. If I click on this, I can see request count, request latency, whatever you want to call it, right? A ton of these things are available, right? So far with me? Whenever data comes in, does not come in, that depends, right? If it's not yet come in, that's fine. I'm also going to do a few things here of starting a particular test that simulates a lot of requests. So I'll just start that, let that happen in the background so that you can see some charts getting developed. But what I've done right now is I've simply looked at the standard dashboards which were there and created them straight away. Now, someone says, is this site working or not? Can we set up some kind of maybe an HTTP endpoint check or a ping that keeps doing every now and then to find out if it is working or not, right? And if not, it should alert me. So there's a concept called uptime checks, okay? And what I've done is, in the service, I've got an endpoint that looks something like this, okay? So this is a test that I just want, that anyone hits this healthy endpoint, it should return this text. It means site is working fine or not, right? So in order to keep a test like this, or you can keep it on any other endpoint too, create an uptime check, give it a title, let's call it, let's say, inventory uptime check. And then I say HTTPS, and maybe I just take this host name, right? And I put that here, and I say the path is that healthy, right? I check every 1 minute, and then I say content matching contains, say, right? Can check for various things, but I'll keep it simple. I can even get a notification on an email or so if I want, that if something goes wrong, let me know. I can test it out. If the endpoints I've given are right or wrong, it's responded, I've created this uptime check. What this does is, across, you can see we've got actually these servers running in different regions, and they will ping your endpoint and get back a response, and everything is good. Every few minutes it will run, and you'll see all of those right now, which are just black circles, becoming green or red, depending upon what it is. So anything going wrong, if the uptime check keeps failing, you will get notified. So this is a great way by which you don't have to keep awake at night. Just get the notifications when things go wrong. So we've looked at some standard dashboards. We've looked at a bit of uptime checks. Now the next thing, Metrics Explorer. Google Cloud exposes at least, I don't know, I can't remember the exact count, but must be 4,000 to 5,000 different metrics from different services. The question will be, how do I find out which metrics are there? Of course, you've got documentation listing for all of these metrics, but in the Metrics Explorer, you can actually pick for a particular service or a resource specific metric that's exposed, and you can even do your own aggregations and whatnot with it. So in this case now, it's Cloud Run, right? I can actually say, select a metric, okay, which one? So I'm just showing you a different way now. So as you can see, various services given there, Cloud Run revision, it's exposing 15 metrics. It's got something around request latencies that we are interested in maybe to see how quickly it's returning back responses. I select that and I click on apply. And boom. If the data is coming in a bit, of course we can even change some of the timeline around it. But let me little bit, okay, so you can see the save chart at the end. So what I've done now is I just went to Metrics Explorer. I just explored a particular metric that I wanted, and I simply can view it. I can do a few changes if I want, but for now I can literally say, let me save this. Let me call this, let's say, inventory API latency. I'll call it a dashboard. Maybe I can make a new dashboard itself and call this inventory dashboard, inventory, say, latency dashboard, and I save this. There you go. We go back to dashboards. You can see that we've got our inventory latency dashboard. I can click that and it'll just have that particular chart that we are looking at. The other thing you can always do is you can even make any of these as your favorites, okay? And what that ends up doing is when you go to the overview page, you will see they are listed directly as a quick access in your favorites. So if I go back to my inventory latency dashboard where I just had this latency numbers that are coming in, this is fine, right? This is the first step. You can keep viewing it. But nobody is going to keep looking at their charts and saying, I'll keep looking till something happens. No. So what you do is, a straightforward manner to say, see that? Convert to alert chart. Click on that, and now it lets you create an alert out of that chart. The alert means you have to say, what is the threshold beyond which you will say, look, something is wrong, so please notify me. So you can define this out here by saying, okay, all this is fine. When I go to the next one, you will see it tells you whether it's a threshold or even an absence of it completely. But we can say threshold. It shows you your existing data. So we can say maybe as long as it remains within 300 milliseconds, and it shows you, right? See, you're still performing quite well there. You see that little blue thing there? And so you're quite okay. But okay, that's the threshold I'm setting, and I create a policy out of it. And in the policy, I can say, please let me know on my email. By the way, there are various notification channels like Slack and otherwise too. So this gets done. I can even keep documentation, labels, whatnot. And here we go, and we create this policy. Now, if I go back to my alerts, you can see I've got two policies here. One was for the uptime check, if it fails. Remember, the first one we defined. And the second one is for the API latency. So anytime going wrong, you will straight away get an email that it's crossed about 300 milliseconds for your latency, and it stays like that for 5 minutes, like an interval, you will get that. If you go back to our uptime checks, there you go. Those have got done by now. So you can actually even set from a specific region if you want, etc. Okay. Now, the only other thing I wanted to show you was the SLI, SLO, and that stuff that I was talking about. So if I go to services, that's where you do your service monitoring. Now the question will be that, hey, you told us about SLIs, you told us about SLOs. SLOs have targets within a certain day. Is it that Google Cloud computes all of this? Or do we have to do the computations? How does it discover our services? Does it even have those golden signals like availability, latency already pre-calculated for you? So let's see that. So when I go to service monitoring and I say define a service, it will nicely discover the services that I have from Cloud Run, from App Engine, from GKE and whatnot. In this case, in this project, I just have this Cloud Run service deployed, so it's found that. I simply click on submit and see it tells me now, look down, create the SLO for it, service level objective. So when I click that, see the two golden signals there, availability and latency, that it's able to compute automatically for you. So I can say maybe let's focus on latency again for this demo purpose. So let it be latency for which I want to set an SLO, right? I continue and I say what's the threshold? Maybe I say 300 again, okay? And you see the currently where you're performing at, that's also shown below. And I say, whatever, let's, for how much period of time, I can say every 28 days, I would like 95% of my requests to be served under 300 milliseconds. That's what I configured. And if not, it should eat up the error budget. So I just create this SLO. What it does, notice that. Notice the error budget. From 100%, it's already computed because probably there were a few requests that must have gone in the 28-day period that I had over 300 milliseconds, due to which it's depleted that. So the moment it goes under, or it keeps, going over 300 milliseconds, it's going to keep eating up the error budget and it will compute all of that for you. Also the logs and everything that's going on, which I was firing, it's also shown over to you here, plus many other ways. The thing I wanted to just finally point out is that look at the integration of all of this, right? I was within the monitoring thing, I moved to maybe some of the dashboards and then the alerts, and one thing or the other is leading to another. It's not disjointed. I'll just take another minute more because I wanted to show you something very specific, which is that I go to logging, right? I was showing you monitoring till now, but I'm going to logging. And in logging, of course, there'll be tons of things that will come up. You see all those requests that are going on over here. But I've created one log-based metrics. And what this means is you can actually create or basically look at your logs, and if there are specific patterns of text, you can convert that into a metric. I've created one thing where, if someone looks up a product that's not the I1, I2, I3 that I was talking about, then it should log it and create, okay, how many times are people searching for wrong products. So I've created that metric up front, but just to show you, you can actually view the logs for that metric. So you will notice there, I've just kept a regular expression that's the message that my application logs. And it's saying, show me all the logs which have that particular text. And that's the metric that I'm going to convert. So if you look at log-based metrics, right from here, I can go and look at it in the metrics explorer. And you can see some of the incorrect requests because I was firing some of the wrong ones, right? The invalid thing as many number of times, the 100 one. So it's found that also for you. Even incorrect API, see straight away, you can just convert this into a chart, say incorrect, maybe product lookups. Maybe this could be another thing let's call this D3 in short for now. So now if you go back to your dashboards, you've got even the custom dashboard for a log-based custom metric. That's all ready. Even this, if you want at any point in time, convert to alert charts. So you can just see the way everything is linked together so that you're not lost between different consoles and things like that. So hopefully you can see what you can literally do in like probably 15-20 minutes or maybe even half a day for all you care to set up various dashboards, alerts, and other things for your system. The whole thing that I showed you in the lab is also available to you. So if you want to try out on your own, there's a code lab that's available. This is the QR code for it. And you can try it on your own in your own project also through the sample Cloud Run service that I had. So in summary, right, we looked at some of the SRE concepts. User-focused and engineering is key because it lets you just keep trying things till things improve. And of course, the 3 pillars are these. We saw a bit of the monitoring, logging stuff. Thank you.